human resilience has its limitations. I want to just talk about this idea of human resilience for a minute, because this is sort of the crux of the work that I do right now. Human beings have an amazing capacity to withstand a lot of stress, emotional, toxic, and other. But there's a point when that sort of no longer happens. And also, what's amazing about human beings is that we also have this incredible capacity to heal. If you think about this for a second, this is an analogy shared with me by a friend of mine who does a lot of work in environmental health. And she described it this way: if you skin your knee, and then you put a lot of like dirt in it, and maybe like pour some like Clorox on it, or throw some crap in your skinned knee, what's gonna happen to that skinned knee? You keep picking the scab. That skinned knee will never heal as long as you keep putting things and irritating it. But what happens if you remove those obstacles to healing? If you wash your knee, you cover it, you take care of it, you nourish it, and you nurture it, what happens to your skinned knee? Oh, it miraculously heals. It's amazing. Like, is that not the most amazing thing ever, that the human being can heal itself? That's like the most profound thing I've learned, I think, in my entire life, that conception that if we remove the obstacles to healing, the human being has this incredible resilience and incredible ability to heal. But what we're doing right now is we're really testing our ability to remain resilient. So if you take this analogy of the human body as like a barrel, this is not my analogy, lots of people use this one. So the size of your barrel is your resilience. The size and strength of your barrel is how much stress you can take. And again, when I use the word stress, I'm talking about toxic stress, and emotional stress, a physical stress. So you can only take so much. And you think about all the things that you put into the bucket, like all the stressors, all the toxins, all the junky food. Those are like drops in the bucket, okay? So your barrel's so big, and at some point, your barrel will tip over if you put too many inputs in that are not helpful. So this is something that's known as the total load theory, which was coined by a woman named Patricia Lambert in a book she published in 2014 called Outsmarting Autism, which I highly recommend if you have a child with autism, get that book, Outsmarting Autism. And so all the things in our environment, from glyphosate and other pesticides and all the pharmaceutical chemicals and the sugars we consume, the antibiotics, the hormone and steroid medications, all the things that could be stressors on a body are like drops going in the barrel. But the thing is there's things you can do to strengthen the size of your barrel. There's many things you can do. You know, all those things that I had listed about living in harmony with nature, sort of natural rhythms and getting natural sunlight exposure and having clean air and clean water and good nutrition and having sleep. This is a lesson I only learned recently, how important sleep is. And I actually just learned that when you sleep, the lymphatic system is in your brain, which we didn't know until very recently. There's a lymphatic system in your brain that actually opens up when you sleep and helps you drain and remove toxins. And it closes up during the day. So if you don't sleep, you don't drain the toxins and cellular wastes and byproducts out of your brain. Something to think about. But that's something normal human beings do when you're in the normal cycles of life. But when we stay up in these artificial environments, we don't sleep properly, our body doesn't have that ability to repair itself overnight. So there's many, many things that you can do to build the strength of your barrel. But think about this for a second. Think about this total load. The other term for this in the medical world is the allostatic load. Think about this total load without all those health-giving supports. If you don't have friendships and love in your life, if you don't have good nutrition, if you don't have access to clean air or water, if you don't have a good microbiome, which I'm going to spend some time talking about in a minute, you have an itty-bitty little barrel. And your itty-bitty little barrel is going to tip over. And the minute you tip over, you have too many drops of water in that bucket and it starts spilling over, that's when you see symptoms in the body. So all of our kids are tipping over. They have these itty-bitty little bodies. When they come into this world already loaded with toxins, I'm sure many of you have seen that study that was widely published by the Environmental Working Group, who talked about how the umbilical cord has over 200 chemicals in it that are neurotoxins, that are carcinogenic, that are endocrine disrupting. They start out already compromised. That's why I'm calling this a compromised generation. They don't even have a chance coming out of the birth canal because they're being born into a toxic environment, and their bodies have so little resistance, so little resilience to be able to tolerate all the things that we are throwing at them. So in my book, I talk about this series of things that are contributing to the chronic illness epidemic, the environmental factors that have changed over the last few decades, as a perfect storm. It really is a perfect storm of environmental variables working in concert to compromise our children. These are 5 categories that I think are really important, but there are more. This is just sort of my brain's way of categorizing some really important things that we're doing. It's also a way that we can start unwinding the damage. If we know what's causing it, we can start unwinding it. So of course, there's environmental toxins. I don't need to go into detail. You all know what the environmental toxins are that are out there. 80,000 chemicals that haven't been tested for safety in humans. Cultural and lifestyle practices, there's so many in that category. The biggest one would be perhaps birthing practices in the United States. This is things like, over a third of our babies are born by a C-section. A lot of them are coming in on Pitocin, which is known to lower glutathione. This is the group beta strep protocol we use in every hospital in this country, where 40% of women at any time test positive for group beta strep right before labor. And the protocol for that is to put these women on antibiotics. So at any given time in a hospital in the United States, 40% of women are going to be put on antibiotics for group beta strep to prevent possibility of sepsis or meningitis developing in a baby. But that means 40% of babies are being born on antibiotics in the hospitals in the US, plus the third of babies that are being born by a C-section, which are also on antibiotics, because that's required for the surgery. How many babies are being born in this country on antibiotics? The vast majority. And I'm going to talk about why that's a big deal in a second. I just want to put that out there as a placeholder. Diet and nutrition, I'm going to talk about that in a second. I don't even need to talk about that in this conference. It's like, I think anybody who's watching any part of this conference will understand this disaster of nutrition in this country. Pharmaceuticals, I'm going to get into this in more detail. We use so many pharmaceuticals in this country, and I'll tell you why that's a problem in a second. And the last category here is what I term as excessive or improper vaccinations. And what I mean by that is not that all vaccines are good or all vaccines are bad. I don't want to take a position like that because I'll be shot on either side of this debate. It is so controversial that people can't even talk about it rationally. People lose their minds. Like, can we just talk about the science that's out there, and can we just talk about that in the context of what else is going on here with our kids? But it's playing a role.